Hello teacups, what's brewing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we have a slightly different thing planned. So what we're going to do is I've got Foodie's mukbang that she did, her pizza mukbang. I took her original video and I just cut out 3 minutes and 38 seconds. Most of that is just her talking about Anne Boleyn, her thoughts on the changes and Anne Boleyn getting demonetized. So we're going to watch that and I'm going to discuss what purpose I think this video serves for Foodie right now, as well as some of her thoughts on the topic. And then we're going to look a little bit closer at what's going on with the changing of wording and at the exact wording of the TOS. Now I know I showed it in a couple of the sections of the self-cert last mukbang, but last react, but we're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive. All right, so let's get this started.
I ordered from Pizza. The whole reason I wanted their pizza was the garlic dip, and I forgot to order garlic dip.
It's a hard knock life for us.
So this is a disaster mukbang.
I actually only left that in because she does specifically use the word mukbang, and I think she did that on purpose. Because I think this video for her is essentially a low risk, low effort short video to see what her boundaries are. She's in full defiance mode here. She's always been in the find out portion of things when it comes to having to learn lessons. But actually, beyond that defiance, she doesn't have many ideas for new content. Certainly no ideas that are as easy as eating on camera and align so closely with her interests. So she's trying to see here what the limits are and what she can do. And if this video gets demonetized, then okay, she knows something. We'll look at the terms of service, like I said, later, and we'll see where this lies in it. But this was essentially a test run for her. Can she still do some kind of food content if she's careful not to eat too much on camera?
But I got a meal deal. You get 2 drinks. I got diet, 0 sugar.
If it's a meal deal and you get 2 drinks and you've got a whole pizza and quite a large size, I'm guessing that meal deal is for 2 people.
And a dry. And I got pizza, which was supposed to have veggies on it.
Hard life.
And some chicken strips. And a new sauce, sweet and spicy bang bang. I'm so bummed about the garlic dip. Calm down, YouTube. I'm just having a meal. I'm not gonna eat this whole pizza.
She would have eaten that whole pizza on camera in days gone by, but she's being careful to say it. Like I said, she doesn't want to do new content. She just wants to keep being able to monetize things that she doesn't have to plan out. So what were the causes of everyone else getting demonetized? How far can she go with it? It doesn't matter if she eats this whole pizza off camera or not. She won't be monetized for that.
Apparently YouTube is now going like gung-ho, demonetizing videos they think support self-harm. I don't know if they're demonetizing all of those like Korean mukbangers who eat like a whole table full of food.
I don't actually know. I would imagine so, but I don't actually know. Here is where this has kind of sprung from. Now, there has been, I think it's a class action lawsuit put up against a load of major social media sites. Now, I'm not particularly well informed on this. I've heard it kind of peripherally around the community and mentioned kind of online. But what I've done is I'm going to link down below a law commentary page that was talking about it to give you more details. Now, as far as I can tell, what has happened is basically that the people bringing the lawsuit are saying that social media is basically a consumer product. And because social media provides that product, because they take steps to engage you for longer on the platforms consuming that product, it is their responsibility to ensure that product is safe for consumption. This could be massively oversimplified, but this is how I understand it. Now, as part of that lawsuit's discovery, I think it was TikTok, were asked to hand over some internal documents regarding Eugenia Cooney and an incident she had back in May of what appeared to be a health event on camera. So the question of what people are allowed to do on camera and still be monetized and the picture they're allowed to present is very much in question in this. As a result, some might use the term knee-jerk reaction, It seems like YouTube is going through, it's making their terms of service and their self-certification program, which, as I mentioned in the last video, is the questionnaire we have to fill in before we upload any content, saying what is in this content. They're making it much more detailed, they're widening the scope of it, and they're giving more examples specific to eating issues. The concern really seems to be focused in on imitatable actions, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So they're limiting what can be shown, what can run limited ads, which means that, you know, the brand has to agree to be shown on that kind of content or be shown on like age restricted videos or what have you, and what content can't run ads.
But they demonetized Amberlynn Reed, and I thought I would give my 2 cents on that.
Oh,
If they demonetize Amberlynn, I sincerely hope they demonetize all of her lychee, obsessed reaction channels.
It does not surprise me that that's what Chantel is focused on, rather than this person that she's kind of been frenemies with for a while getting her entire livelihood taken away, and the potential that it could also happen to Chantel. No, stick it to the haters first. Now, there is an argument for it impacting reactors, and we will get into that later, okay, when we go through all the details.
Since this woman's been on YouTube, she's been bullied. I don't care whatever you say she did, whatever you think she did, whatever. I'm sorry, but I don't think warrants that much abuse.
I think that's a great way to turn things around, but her being demonetized doesn't seem to be attached to that. And there's been some interesting updates to the wording that I think would impact Amberlynn over Foodie's current content, and it may offer an explanation as to why her entire channel was demonetized versus various videos just going down.
Online abuse. And YouTube has allowed channels to just use 100% of her content for years, and then they're going to demonetize her and not them too, you know what I mean? Like,
well, we have the option of identifying our videos for what they are, and YouTube has the option of demonetizing us if they feel that we do not adhere to their allowances. If they haven't before now, it's because our content hasn't broken the rules. I say our as kind of an expansive phrase. I realize there's a lot of nuance in that. I realize people use it to a very different degree, but fair use is a little bit nebulous in that way.
I think YouTube should change their policy about eating disorders too. You cannot talk about them at all.
That is simply not true. As I said in my last react, you can't be monetized for talking about them in certain ways and showing them in certain ways. Now, we'll get into the weeds with that, but it's not that you're being banned from talking about it. It's that they won't pay you to do it, and they're now being harsher on what is classified as imitatable behavior because they're getting called up on it. It's essentially their due diligence.
They might allow exceptions, and they do say that, you know, for educational purposes, from, you know, maybe from documentary companies or news outlets or whatever. But if you want to make a channel talking about your struggles with one, I wouldn't do it.
Not if you want to make your livelihood from it, maybe. Like, I wouldn't do it the way some people have done it. That doesn't mean it can't be done.
Demonetize her entire channel, just remove the videos that are problematic. I have no idea.
It does seem like you're rather ill-informed, but don't worry, we're going to get there. I think the key may be the fact that there's wording at the bottom of all the stuff we're going to look at that basically says if the majority of your channel is based in this unallowable content or shows egregiously that you are not rating accurately, we may reconsider your membership to the YouTube Partner Program, which seems to be what's happened.
I'm sure she'll appeal it, but
I think she's appealing. There's no reason to delete as many videos as she has if she's not appealing.
We'll see what happens. I don't know if YouTube is like demonetizing all mukbangs or just videos talking about ED and stuff.
It's a bit of both. I think we're going to see a pivot over to lots of people posting like food reviews for eating videos instead. to try and circumvent this, but we'll see.
Whatever the case, I guess we'll find out. Eating unto itself is a human act.
Yes, and eating unto itself is not disallowed on YouTube. But again, context matters. It's how you're presenting it.
No matter how big you are, no matter what you have to eat. I don't think that, just recording yourself eating a normal meal is a big deal.
She's made that argument before, but she's always talked about her struggles while eating those meals, or she's mentioned the things she's eaten between those meals, or they've mentioned things like calorie counts, which is now apparently a problem as well. It's going to be an interesting time.
But I can understand their logic with cracking down on people doing dangerous eating challenges. There's people who have tore their stomachs up doing that kind of stuff, so I can...
Yeah, there's some wording about negative physical effects directly after eating, like throwing up and stuff.
I understand that kind of dangerous self-harm kind of policy. But eating a normal meal, a few pieces of pizza. And I know you're going to say, well, fat people should only eat salads.
That is such a false argument. She always goes back to this to show how ridiculous the argument is against people who are overweight eating on camera. Not everybody eating on camera has the same history and has made the same discussions on camera as she has. Not everybody on camera showcases the difficulties it causes in their life the way she does.
You two can't make that determination. Come on now. I guess that's all I'm going to eat for now. My stomach is really weird these days. Sometimes I'm have a really big appetite, but sometimes no.
That doesn't surprise me because she eats later, and so how you would wake up and how you would feel the next day would vary.
I mean, usually during the day. At night I get hungrier. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, because you haven't eaten during the day.
But anyways, thank you so much for watching this video, guys. I've been doing a lot of live streams. Haven't been doing as many videos. I did some here and there. You can go watch. I went to Park Omega and stuff like that.
I think she's mentioning these on purpose to kind of showcase, look, I don't just have one focus to my channel. There's also travel around things. And actually, I think Foodie, as much as it sounds like it wouldn't be the case, is in less danger because she has privated her past videos. She's in less danger with her more recent arc because it was based more in traveling abroad for a whole channel to be demonetized. Because having that extra focus means that they could go in and say, these videos are unacceptable, rather than say, no, this is your whole general channel that's now giving us an issue.
My travel journey back here, stuff like that. I will talk more about stuff. Bye, guys!
All right, and that's literally all we've got of Foodie. And now I've got a PowerPoint open, but I'm going to put it up for you to see and we're going to read it together, okay? I realize this is a bit boring for some people, so if you're not interested, I get it. So I showed you last React that we have a questionnaire that we fill out. And what I've done is I've gone into the YouTube Help Center and I've gotten more details on what each section means. Now, when you go in, you have a type of content and you have a definition of that content. And then you have 3 sections. One section is that, yes, we can monetize this as normal. One is this content may earn limited or no ad revenue. And that means that it might be restricted by age. And so less advertisers want to advertise on that because they don't feel it fits their brand. And I would assume the advertisers that are happy to advertise on that kind of content would then pay a lesser amount to do so because the audience they can reach is less. And it can also mean if the video is restricted that it gets pushed out less by the algorithm. It also has this content will earn no ad revenue, which means we're just refusing to monetize this. We're going to go through each section that I feel is relevant to the girls. And what I've done, because some of the stuff they put up there just makes me sad in terms of the abuse and things like that, I've just pulled out anything that might be relevant to them. In shocking content, we're told content that may upset, disgust, or shock viewers may not be suitable for advertising. Unobscured shocking elements won't necessarily result in your video being unsuitable for advertising, but context matters. And then a little bit more information. Shocking content like graphic images of human and or animal body parts that is unobscured and intended to shock yet still provides general context. Particularly, they have a section called animal preparation and eating. This probably won't apply to the girls. They don't really do stuff like this, but it may apply to other content creators. But it does specifically mention mukbang, so in terms of some other creators, this content may earn limited or no ad revenue. Sensational mukbang or ASMR animal consumption displayed unprepared animal parts or eating them in a barbaric or exaggerated manner. What came to mind with this one, do you remember a little while back there was a woman who I think ate like a live octopus or something? I just remember her having it wrapped around the chopsticks or something like that. I didn't actually watch the video because I didn't want to see it, but something like that. Exaggerated manner may come back to haunt some of the crowd in orbit in Girl World, but I think it's more cruelty to animals than it is the stuff that we see with, say, Amber or Foodie. Ironically, considering cruelty and neglect to animals is also part of the conversation for both of them. And then the no ad revenue, we're not even going to try, is like the highly shocking content where the whole purpose of the video is to shock viewers. Generally, no real context is provided, while gruesome or gory elements, distress or mishandling are clear and apparent. So that's shocking content. It doesn't have a lot of connection, but really to do with how you prepare it and your purpose. Now this one, I thought of Foodie particularly with some of the diets that she used to do. You know, the really crazy ones she did, like the grape fast, the medical medium diet, that kind of thing. So under harmful acts and unreliable content, content that promotes harmful or dangerous acts resulting in serious physical, emotional, or psychological injury is not suitable for advertising. So content that will earn no ad revenue. They give you a definition and they give you examples, which is why I've got this here. Content that mainly showcases accidents, vigilantism, pranks or dangerous acts such as experiments or stunts that have health risks like drinking or eating non-edibles. Discussion of trending videos that show this type of content. But under the examples, they had medical and scientific misinformation, and it mentioned videos that encourage or provide instructions for scientifically unproven remedies for medical conditions, like healing cancer through diet choices. And it made me think of when Foodie was talking about her ovaries and how she was going to heal her cysts. Now, obviously, she's been through a whole gambit of fad diets during her history here on YouTube, so I imagine some of them may have come up against this particular definition. Now, the next one is hateful and derogatory content. This is the one that's most discussed when talking about reactors reacting to her specifically. Well, I say to her. To her in this case was Foodie, but to any of the girls. Because it's considered content that incites hatred against, promotes discrimination, disparages or humiliates an individual or group of people is not suitable for advertising. Content that is satire or comedy may be exempt. Stating your comedic intent is not sufficient, and that content may still not be suitable for advertising. Now, for full disclosure, this is what I declare my videos under, because part of me uploading is telling them the type of content that is in here. So for me, I consider my videos criticizing an individual's or group's opinion, views, or actions without any incendiary or demeaning intent. It is not my intent to demean Foodie, and I don't feel my language during my reacts does so. So that is what I declare under. It's also one of the points that gets the most argument with people who are against reactors, and can be applied to Foodie's channel as well when she talks about the people that react to her or members of her audience. Now, to help out, they have given a list of things that this includes. And I've expanded this, I'm spending a bit more on time on this because this is the thing that can also come out and catch reactors. You've probably seen some things around where reactors are like privating videos or may have talked about having certain videos taken down. Now, sometimes that's because they're reacting to things that have now been considered unsuitable, and sometimes it's the context of how they've reacted to them. So the mileage on how this is going to be applied is going to be different for every reaction channel and for every content creator. So some examples of content that fall into the category: statements intended to disparage a protected group or imply state its inferiority. Non-educational content featuring racial slurs or derogatory terms. I was going down this list and I was like, foodie. Promoting, glorifying or condoning violence against others. Do you remember when she said Nada deserved to be hung by the president? I realized Nada isn't a great example, but there we go. Inciting discrimination against protected groups, such as stating you should hate all of these types of people in this country. Promoting hate groups, hate signals, or hate group paraphernalia. Malicious shaming or insulting of an individual or group. I would say this one is one that tends to catch up with both foodie and reactors in terms of the language. Malicious shaming or insulting of an individual or group. Singling out an individual or group for abuse or harassment. These two tend to be the ones that get leveled at reaction channels, and as I say, depending on how you present it will depend on how much that will apply to you. But I would also apply this to the people we react to. So it becomes kind of a nuclear deterrent of if you start reporting one, then things go downhill real quick. Denying or glorifying that tragic events happen, framing victims or survivors as crisis actors. Malicious personal attacks, slander and defamation. I would say that one as well, with some types of reactions, can cause issues. Portraying ideologies or beliefs in a malicious way by generalizing or disparaging, and that includes negatively characterizing individuals, groups, ideologies or beliefs, such as stating all feminism is sick, such as making the example statement. Now, I would say the most trouble she's going to have for the type of content she puts out is going to be from the one we looked at yesterday, which we're going to look at in more detail just now. But I think this also is a double-edged sword for her, because this is definitely the argument against reaction channels, depending on how you deliver your content. But it's a case of proving that it's hate or harassment. But let's look at controversial issues, which is where the meat of this really is. Controversial issues are topics that may be unsettling for viewers, which are often the result of human tragedy. The policy applies even if the content is purely commentary or contains no graphic imagery. And this is where it can be a problem for people who have reacted to them as primary sources, because their primary source is now no longer acceptable. So there's lots of controversial issues there. Now, two of the things involved in that are self-harm and eating disorders, which they now have separated instead of classifying it all under a general term. So interestingly, Foodie said in her opinion piece that you can't talk at all about problems you have with food now, which isn't true. Content that can earn ad revenue under this definition: content relating to preventing controversial issues, content where controversial issues are mentioned fleetingly in a video and are non-graphic and non-descriptive, non-graphic, non-descriptive content relating to all that list of examples, but underneath the examples, it has a general reference to eating disorders without triggering or imitatable signals. It's that phrase, triggering or imitatable signals, that is the key to this issue. So to support this, they've given a list of definitions that are classified as triggering or imitatable. And one of these actually really surprised me, and I think is the reason that Amberlynn got taken down entirely. So triggering or imitatable signals: lowest BMI or weight. This is just showing your weight, and this comes out again in a minute. Showing an overly thin or emaciated body, I think this would apply to Eugenia in this case, or anybody, whether they mention it or not, who is suffering from a disorder and monetizing on YouTube. Weight or body-based shaming or bullying, again, depending on the type of reaction you put out, that could be applied to reaction channels, which is why you have to be careful with your language. This one immediately made me think of Foodie and pizza boxes. Reference to binging, hiding or hoarding food. I'm going to skip one for the moment and I'll tell you why. Vomiting or abusing laxatives, and then referencing to hiding any of the above behaviors, like, oh, this is how you can get away with it. Now, the two I missed out there are because I think this is where we're going to see really widespread demonetization, and I think this is actually probably why Amber Lynn's channel got taken down, because it says exercising to reach a calorific deficit and checking weight loss progress. That's the big one. So it means if anybody out there is doing a like, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, you know, come support me, I'm doing a weekly weigh-in, you know, and Amber's done that since the beginning of her channel. If you start a channel and you're saying it's my aim to lose this much weight and you're checking in for an accountability, it's not going to be allowed anymore because it's considered triggering or imitatable. Amber started her channel as I've lost, 89 lbs and I want to lose more. The majority of her early content was that. And yes, they both changed somewhat from where they started, but a huge amount of her content is related to her weight, her struggle with weight, her disorders. So the reason we're seeing so many hours deleted from Amber Lynn's channel right now is because she's really going to have to scrub it clean if she's going to apply for monetization again. And I would be tempted to just be like, get rid of it, go fresh. And in terms of all the girls really, it leaves them in a hard position because the natural opposite to the kind of content they traditionally did was to start a health journey or a weight loss program, or, you know, I'm getting my life in gear. That's how the cycle turned. And now YouTube has kind of got them coming or going, because they've either got really disordered, difficult content that could be triggering, or them trying to follow their progress could be triggering. And I know that Amber has done some like vlogs and things like that, but the majority of her content for a very long time has really been one of those two things. And if Foodie wants to better her life and then she's going to go to therapy and she's going to, you know, start eating a healthy breakfast and going on a walk or doing whatever, she's going to hit the same problems because she's not going to be able to talk about checking weight loss progress or her like how many calories she's burned or whatever. Now, she never really was one for exercise, and I think she'll find it easier to pivot into, you remember I suggested like around Ottawa or whatever. Her content is already slightly more diverse, as strange as that sounds, from Amber Lynn's. But if Amber can't use either abusing food or controlling food as part of her content, she's really going to find it difficult to fill her content. Now, in terms of discussing disorders and things like that, there is potential to discuss. We've got this content may earn limited or no ad revenue. Content about controversial issues that are not visually disturbing yet may contain descriptive language. This includes dramatized, artistic, educational, documentary, or scientific representation of controversial issues, non-graphic, non-descriptive, main topic related to child-related issues, non-graphic but descriptive content related to adult issues, harassment and abuse. But in the examples, we had dramatized or artistic depiction of eating disorders with triggering or imitatable signals. So this is the things that we discussed, but not in person, as it were. Like, you might be able to earn a little something on that, but probably not. And eating disorder recovery stories. It uses an example here, but any disorder. But when we look into what they won't even monetize to begin with, we've got graphic depictions or detailed descriptions of controversial issues as the main topic. That is an issue for them. Explicit reference to eating disorders accompanied by any of the following references or context, any of them. And that is mainly what we just discussed: lowest BMI or weight, showing a thin or emaciated body, weight or body-based shaming or bullying, reference to binging, hiding or hoarding food, exercise to reach deficit, vomiting, abusing pills, checking weight loss progress, reference to hiding any of the above. It also gives further examples of promotion or glorification of controversial issues in the content title or thumbnail. It has an example. An explicit reference to eating disorders with triggering or imitatable signs. So if Foodie is sitting there doing a mukbang, calling it a cheat day, and saying it's a 3 a.m. binge because my husband is traveling again, That's not okay, because it could be triggering, it can definitely be imitated, and it's clearly connected to a mental state. And then just in terms of definitions, so we know where we're standing, it has to be the focal point. So they do define focal as focused or focal references to a segment, full video, or a sustained discussion about a given controversial issue. A passing reference to a controversial issue is not considered a focus on that issue. For example, briefly acknowledging a controversial or sensitive topic, such as in next week's video we'll be discussing something, wouldn't be considered focal. But a segment of a video specifically talking about a topic would be considered focal. Focus need not be verbal. If there is an image or text that focuses on sensitive issue, that would be considered focus too. And basically, as I mentioned before, if they feel that you are either doing this as the majority of your content, or if you've been told several times, if you've been told and you are continuing to upload content that they're telling you, no, this does not adhere to our guidelines, they can review your membership of the partner program, which I feel has probably happened with Amber. All right, everybody, so I hope that was informative. I'll go and cut this down. I think Foodie needs to be careful. I think she really needs to look at the terms and service and make sure she's doing what she's supposed to do, and make sure that she's definitely certifying it correctly. Basically, what happens with certification is they give you a rating, whether you've got high accuracy or low accuracy. They use computer programs to help check this, and then for part of due diligence, they will go in occasionally and do a human review to make sure it is right. In my history on channel, I've only ever had a couple of videos put to limited ads, and that was because Foodie kept saying see you next Tuesday about people. YouTube didn't like it. So when I was saying like, oh, there's no issue in this, I haven't said anything, they were like, profanity. Yeah, fair. I also had one issue right when self-certification started, because it wasn't there when I first started, in that I didn't realize there were more options, and so I didn't think anything applied, so I put none, and YouTube came back at me and was like, I think you'll find, and wouldn't run full ads on the video. They put like limited. So that was a learning experience for me. So you can't really get around anything by not declaring it. And I'd say, especially with the current events and the potential for trouble it's going to cause them, they're probably going to err on the side of better safe than sorry when it comes to removing content that could make them look bad. All right, guys, that's everything you got from me today, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.